Good afternoon, everybody. Uh, I'm Zach. I'm one of the founders of Gembah. I'm excited to be talking to you today about a topic that we really try to emphasize throughout the journey of product development, which is researching and vetting a product opportunity. I'm going to be kind of going through a lot of different things on this call. I'll give everyone a couple more minutes to file in before we get started. If there are any questions, there will be a Q&A section at the end, and I can, if you want to put things into the Q&A side of it or put it into the chat, I can go ahead and answer those questions at the end. So I'll give everyone another minute or so to file in, and then we'll get started. All right, looks like we have a good amount of people in here. Again, I'm Zach. I'm one of the founders of Gembah, and today we're going to be talking about product research and vetting a product opportunity. Again, a critical part of the product development process that here at Gembah we highly emphasize as important part of the journey. It should be, one of the first steps you take after you have an idea for a product is to help, research and vet to make sure that it's viable. So before we dive into it, I want to talk a little bit more about who we are. The company I founded is called Gembah. We are a product innovation platform that helps e-commerce brands and Amazon sellers ranging in 6 to 9 figures in sales with product research, physical product design, actual supply chain work with manufacturing and sourcing, and ultimately helping you manage all of your production overseas. So really giving you expertise along the entire supply chain and product innovation chain to make sure that you don't go at this alone and you don't have any issues that come up from afar when you are doing production both domestically overseas. Obviously with the impact of COVID and everything, it's getting more challenging to travel both domestically and overseas. So we are a provider that can help you throughout that process. And today, what I'm going to be focusing on is the research part of our offering. So what we're going to cover today is why it's so important. Obviously want to emphasize, what product research is and how best to think about it and why it's important. The types of different product research and what they are. We'll go into a quantitative research dive. So we have identified 6 key metrics that we believe are helpful as a good at least starting ground for you to be looking into product research. And then the qualitative side of that, so taking it more out of the data and more into the more subjective side of the research. So looking into reviews and trends. We'll do a case study and then we'll open it up to Q&A at the end. And like I said before, if you have questions, feel free to put them in a chat or into a Q&A form and I'll get to those at the end. But again, let's dive in. I'm really excited to be talking about this. The first thing is, why is product research so important? So, you're either managing a brand, you own a brand, or you're just starting out and you have an idea that comes to mind based on maybe some consumer feedback, or just you are an entrepreneur and you say, look, I think there's a product out there that I'm really excited about, and I have a great idea and it's going to solve all these world problems. But ultimately you need to have some sort of research that takes those ideas and really make sure that they are viable to the public. And so why it's so important is because it helps you identify consumer trends. So it's going to help you quantify how big is this marketplace that you're trying to solve the problem for with your product, as well as are people actually looking for this type of solve. If you're, for example, if you're trying to build a cup, what problems have not been solved, and are there consumer trends that you can look at? So if you're trying to build a cup with temperature gauge to see how cold it is, and You're trying to build a cup that can also tell you how much volume is in there. Are there any more statistical analyses out there that show you that that people are looking for that? Can you look in reviews? Can you look at data for temperature control or or volume measurements and stuff like that? Is there actual trend data that can support that? Um, Also, another part of it is, this is a great opportunity for you to do a bunch of research on your own and limit your investment in capital. So obviously, when you go down the route of product development, it can be very expensive. From the actual, if you're not a designer or engineer yourself, you're gonna have to pay someone to do that. So that has a bill and expense, dedicated towards that. You're going to have to, go down the route of manufacturing, which also can be very expensive when you're talking about molds and tooling to build your product, and then placing purchase orders. You have to fill inventory, so there's all of the supply chain expenses that come with it, um, from the inventory to logistics to warehousing. All of that stuff comes into play. And so if you're going out and trying to find a new product, you're really making sure that you're putting the data behind it before you make that sort of capital investment to really, go forward with your idea and with that product. And then finally, again, kind of making sure that, I'm sure everyone has product ideas out there. I'm sure some of them are great, and some of them, you kind of look back at yourself in a day or maybe a week or a month and say, man, that was maybe a great idea, but maybe it's just not worth it. You're kind of proving or disproving that gut feeling of, if you're really onto something, or if it's just something that, maybe some fun experiment that you want to test out but might not be viable. So ultimately, these are three key reasons why product research is really important first step as you go down the product development route. Um, Now, the different types of product research, there's quantitative and qualitative, and we'll get into specific examples of that here shortly. But on the quantitative side, some of the things that we look at is obviously pricing. So how does, if you're going down the route of launching a product, what do you need to sell it for? And that ultimately will help you gauge, what do your margins need to be? What do you need to buy it for? And can you make that product feasibly for the margins that you're trying to actually uh, uh, get for your business? Another one is search volume. How many people are actually looking at this type of product on a regular basis? Conversion share and click share, for, we're going to go deep into the Amazon space specifically here and look at, if something is put into a search bar, how often are people clicking on some of the results that come from that search bar, and then ultimately how often are they converting once they're in those top part of the search results. Qualitative, you're looking at reviews and feedback. So this is something that customers will give you, and it's not necessarily in the quantitative side of it. So maybe it may be feedback on your product, positive or negative. So you can kind of take that and hone in on, maybe what you need to solve for version 2 of your product or another product that you want to launch. And then also Etsy and Pinterest trends. So again, these are smaller scale what people are buying. Usually these are made at home, but can you take some of those trends and put it into a mass manufacturable product and not have it, something that you build out of your garage, or, have some friends or family help you build, and then ultimately can you take that and go and build it into mass manufacturing overseas or domestically? Um, so let's dive into the quantitative side of it first. So the first thing that we look at is search frequency rankings, or SFR. And really what it's telling you is how often a search term or keyword is searched on a daily basis. And so what you're looking for is not necessarily one single day, but a trend. And is that trend moving positive or negative? And if you look at this graph specifically, you can see that there's kind of a stable trend between the 400K range and the 200K range. And then once March of this year came, there was an upward trend into the 100,000 SFR on a regular basis. And so what this is showing is that actually search volume over the past few months has increased in comparison to the earlier part of this year and going into 2019 as well. So search frequency, I think about this, like there are millions upon millions of uh, search terms that are put into Amazon on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And so what we're trying to understand here is how often are people looking for the same search term regularly, and and what is the trend over over a series of time, and is it increasing or is it decreasing? Obviously, if it's increasing, that means that people are looking for this product more, and you may have found a niche or a product that might be worth pursuing as a result of that. And conversely, if you have search frequency rankings that are declining, maybe it's something that was a fad, or it's seasonal, or it's not necessarily something that's sustainable on a regular basis for you to invest a lot of money into developing a product. And so this is one of those things that we look at and say, if you're in the top 150 or 100,000 plus, so if you're the closer you get to zero, or the closer you get to one, actually, one being the most searched keyword every single day. Obviously, if you can get to, a high volume product searched regularly, that's going to be something that's going to make you a ton of money. So this is where we start the conversation of data, and trying to quantify, what is something that may be worth investing in from a product development standpoint. The next one is pricing distribution and pricing pressure. So we're looking at distribution. So what are the boundaries at which the product is being sold at? So on average, let's say it's being sold at $20, and one standard deviation away, it's selling at 23, and one standard deviation to the lower end is at 17. So you kind of know that you need to price your product somewhere between the 17 and $23 mark if you know that your pricing distribution is between those two numbers. Pricing pressure is looking at how is this price moving over time, and then why does this matter? So ultimately, pricing pressure and pricing distribution are going to determine how much margin you can make on this product. And so if the pricing pressure is moving down, meaning that the cost is continuously going down, as you probably note, for white label products or anything like that that's sold on Amazon, it's super competitive, and sometimes it can be a race to the bottom. And so if you're looking at white labeling or developing a product, you need to be able to make sure that you're pricing it correctly so you can make your margin. So I use the example of a massage gun. If you look at the revenue last year on average for the massage gun, it was $200 is kind of where it was being sold at, um, over the course of 2019. And so if the cost of goods sold on that was $50, you're looking at gross margin that's closer to 75%. That's, again, not net margins, that's gross margins. This year, however, if you look at the average price of a massage gun, that pricing has dropped significantly to $100. So if you keep your cost of goods sold the same, your gross margin goes down to 50%, which is maybe not a sustainable margin for your business. And so what you're looking at from the pricing pressure perspective is there a rapid, decrease in product price that you need to either go talk to your supplier, or you need to, if you're going to a product development side of things, do you need to start thinking about ways that you can get your cost of goods sold down as well? So is that, creating more product? Is that going in with a higher MOQ? Or is that re-engineering a product so that you can make it more affordable from a shipping perspective? Or is it that you got to, again, if you're trying to solve a problem, can you do it for the appropriate cost that you need to make those margins? So again, really important thing to note from a business standpoint is, where is the price moving on the trend line over the course of a certain amount of time. Next up is review and ranking quality. So again, if you're looking at reviews and rankings, obviously, on most search engines like Amazon and Walmart and stuff, I'm sorry, e-commerce engines, reviews and rankings are what drive the positioning on the page. And so the more reviews you get that are high, the more number of ratings you get that are high, the higher the rank of the product that you're going to get without having to do any marketing. And then there's also the factor of putting PPC as another way to boost the ranking on the page. But if you have a product that you're paying a lot of money for and you're not getting a lot of reviews and ratings, it's not going to move up in the ranks organically, which is what you really want to happen. And so what we look at on our side is looking at, trying to get to the top of page one, which is ultimately what is going to be the driver behind a lot of sales for your product. And so the competitive landscape will tell you in this specific example that in order for you to get to the top of page one on a product, you need to have close to 200 ratings on average. And so what is it going to take for you to get competitive with that? And here's your flight plan to get there. So on page 6, it's pages 6 through 2 almost. You're somewhere in the 45 to 60 range of ratings. And then once you get to the page 1 of this specific product, it goes, 80 up until almost 200. And then you can also see what the review quality is. So what is the average rating score of the product that you're trying to go into and compete against? And so as you can see, the average ratings on the lower pages and the number of ratings is very low. I mean, below a 4 is a pretty low product score or a pretty low quality score for a product. And so, that would signal to me that on this specific one, page 5 and 6, people aren't really buying those products. If you go into page 4 through 2, I mean, it's in the 4 to 4.25, which, at the end of the day is not actually that great. Where you want to be from a product perspective is closer to the 4.5, which is why you're seeing the top of page 1, the average score is at a 4.6, and even the top 20 of page 1 is a 4.47, so close to that 4.5. And even the top 30, which is the top half of Amazon specifically and Walmart, almost close to a 4.5 as well. So for you to have for you to be competitive in this specific space, you're going to need to have a product that's rating really high, close to a 4.5 or above, and above 200 ratings or above 120 ratings probably to get into the top 20. Ultimately, to get to the top of the page, you're going to need closer to 200. And so again, those are types of things that if you go down the product development route, you're going to want to understand before you make those types of capital investments. Can you be competitive in this space? 200 ratings actually is not that much. So in this type of product, if you see this data, this might be something that you could potentially, look into investing in as a result of there not being that many ratings if the search frequency is really high. So maybe this is a product that's recently taken over and growing in the ratings. So again, this is another quantitative measure that you can look at to help you identify if this product is worth pursuing or not. Ultimately, we're trying to get to at the end of the day is the competitive landscape. So you start by tracking the price, the average rating, and the average review score, and this will give you first a good quantitative understanding of how competitive the space is. And so on this particular example, it's the same thing as you see, going up the ratings, going up the page numbers, you're going to see a correlation to the average rating score going up. You're going to see a correlation to the average number of ratings going up, and you're typically going to see the price coming down. So you see, on page 6 and page 7 and page 5, the price is much higher than it is to get to page 1 or page 2. And ultimately, that's what you need to understand before you start investing in a product is how competitive the landscape is, how many ratings, what's the rating score, and what do you need to sell it for in order to really make a lot of money on this product. The next thing is click share and conversion share. So basically this is telling you, okay, now that you've gotten to the top of page 1, what can you expect? So click share is basically saying if you search for this specific keyword, how many people are clicking through to the top X number of products. So in this example, we're looking at the top 3 of page 1. So if you get to the top 3 of page 1, this is a really high click share. It means that 75% of the time people are clicking on the top 3 number of products. And conversion share also means that this is the number of people that once they click into that product, they convert into a sale. So disposable face masks, it looks like the uh, top 3 positioning on page 1 for disposable actually have a really high click share and a really high conversion share. So they might have a stronghold on the market. Where if you look at custom face mask, there's not a lot of click share and there's not a lot of conversion share. So that could mean that there's so many options and the top 3 or the top X number on page 1 aren't converting well, which means that there may be a ripe opportunity for you to disrupt that market, being that there's not really a clear winner at the top. So again, this is something that we look at on all the research that we do to help really, again, put that entirety of quantifying the data behind the opportunity to make sure that it is viable and worth pursuing going forward. Related keywords opportunities, again, you're looking at what is the ecosystem of other keywords to bid on. So we're looking at click share and conversion share. Are there other opportunities for you to go and bid on keywords or start looking at search terms from a PPC perspective, pay-per-click perspective? And so, maybe the original search term was climbing net, which has, pretty good sized conversion share and a pretty good sized click share. in the 50 range, but are there other opportunities with an average SFR that may be, complementary to that? So if I'm looking at rope ladder for kids, which is, not really related to climbing net, but you get similar numbers in the click share and conversion share and only like a 30,000 ranking difference between those two. So maybe you need to create like a rope climbing net for kids that has a ladder into it. Again, those are ways that you can start differentiating your product. Rope ladder for a tree house, maybe not as high in the click share or as high in the search frequency perspective, but you have a really high click share when you get there. So people are looking at it, but maybe not a really good conversion share. So, maybe there's other opportunities out there that is ripe for disruption as well, or maybe that this product just isn't really viable and people don't like it. Again, these are things that when we get into the qualitative side of the equation, you might want to further dig into. But ultimately, what you're looking for is, this might be the hero PPC or keyword that you want to establish and put your as your stronghold, but can you get more market share by looking at ancillary or complementary keywords that you can go bid on and gain click share and conversion share? Again, climbing net for kids, again, that you kind of seen this kids theme, really high click share, decent sized conversion share. If you can own, climbing net, climbing cargo net, these first four, get some market share in these first four keywords, you can kind of see that you're going to get a pretty good sizable click share and a pretty decent conversion share as well. So again, those are things that we look at to make sure that it's not just one keyword that you might want to go attack. It could be other keywords that you want to go, once you launch this product, that you could gain some market share and ultimately some revenue for your business. And then finally, some things you can look at, to gut check all these things to look at your margins is factory pricing. So if you say I need to go, build a massage gun or sell a massage gun for a certain amount of money, I'm looking at, this Amazon link versus what it is on Alibaba. You're looking at pretty low margins. I mean, this one's, below 50%. This one's close to 50%. Are those in line with, the amount of money you can run your business on? Again, that's not up to me to decide. That's up to you to decide. But ultimately, if you're looking to have, margins, gross margins 50% or higher, even 75% or higher, this is a good way for you to say, okay, well, I see what the average price is on Amazon. I see what, the some of the factories on Alibaba are selling it for. Maybe it's at a low quantity. What do I need to do to move the needle to get it lower so I can get within my margins that I want to sell this product, or worth investing this product, worth investing all the money and capital that you put into inventory and differentiation and everything you can do there. So a good way to kind of gut check all this data is to look at real world examples like in Alibaba, or start talking to factories if you have connections to really understand, can they make a product for that kind of money that you can make your margins at. So now that we've gone into the quantitative side, I want to take a more qualitative approach as well, to vetting a product opportunity. So first is the reviews of any product. So um, if you look at these types of reviews from customers of your product or products that you want to get into, you're going to dig into what people say, and it might help you innovate. So, um, like for this example, it says too broke trying to get protective stuff on, thin and cheap. So maybe they have a problem with how it's engineered. You need to re-engineer it so that, the protective casing around whatever the product is needs to be more sound and uh, more engineered to a better degree so that it doesn't break when you try and use it. Here it says it's well packed. So maybe, packaging is something you want to focus on. The presentation is something you want to focus on to make sure that, if you're going to launch a product, obviously in this space, that the packaging needs to be on par or even better than what your competition is doing. And on this one, it says everything was packaged great. Um, Looks a lot like what it looks like on YouTube. So again, people are shopping with their eyes, they're leaving feedback. They want to make sure that the product matches what it's supposed to be. And ultimately, when you look at the reviews, there could be even more, concrete evidence of things that you can look at. And again, if you're looking at a product, what are the things that you need to solve that people are giving, reviews on a regular basis? And so that can help drive the conversation with an engineer or designer to say, hey, look, I want to create a product that has really, really great packaging. Here are the things that people are reviewing and rating on the product that we need to solve for. Is this even possible to do? and that will help again start the conversation of investing in doing research with a designer engineer to make a new product. Um, Another one is looking at research on websites like Pinterest and Etsy that can give me more of small batch, smaller opportunities, but they might have larger impacts if you can find out how to manufacture them, overseas, or get the mass manufacturing done and bring a new product to market. So a good example of this is cake stands. So when I type in cake stands, these are the first things that pop up, and you can see that there's a ton of wood being sold as far as these cake stands. And it's like, okay, is that something that I can go to, sell on another site like Amazon or Walmart and get conversion share and click share? And is this a viable product? Because I'm seeing a trend clearly here from Etsy or Pinterest that would signal that people are looking for wooden cake stands. Same thing with Etsy. Like, look at when we type in cake stands to Etsy, the 3 of the top 6 are wooden. So there's clearly something going on in this space in cake stands that, the trend seems to be that wood has taken over for cake stands. Now, if I look at Amazon now, a year ago, that wasn't the case. Like, these are four of the sorry, a year ago, there were 0 results in wooden cake stands. Now, if you're looking at what the search results are here, there's actually 4 cake stands that are made out of wood in the top 30, as opposed to last year where there was 0. So as you can see, this trend that has been coming through from Etsy and Pinterest is starting to penetrate Amazon, and people might have found that inspiration from Etsy or Pinterest. So again, these are ways that qualitatively you can start figuring out, how can I differentiate on products that are already out there, and these different types of trends that you see on websites like Etsy and Pinterest, which are more meant for small batch or small unit purchases. And maybe those are things that you can use to start building your product. So again, another way to qualitatively show ways that you can differentiate and ultimately invest in a product. And so now I want to bring it all together for a case study that we put together on this thing called a cat backpack. And it sounds exactly what it is. It's a backpack you can bring your cat in. So if you look at kind of the metrics that we have here, they have a sustained and very high demand over the past year. Rank is declining early spring, but maybe that's because of COVID. But after that, it returned to normal level, and now we believe that maybe there's a way for products to differentiate, or to products to continue to grow. So if you look at the search frequency rankings for cat backpack, I mean, it's still in the top 150,000, but as you can see, clearly a big dip once COVID happened, but then it started to come back up, once everything kind of, more or so normalized in the e-commerce space. The rating score, if you look, a majority of the ratings are actually below a 4.5. And so from our perspective, that signals to me that the quality of the product is not necessarily sound. There may be ways for you to differentiate from a cat backpack that's already out there, because the search frequency ranking is high enough. It's into the top 15,000, which is really, really good. And there's a lot of 4-star ratings or below, or between a 4 and a 4.5, which would signal to me that there isn't really a high quality product in what's being put out there in the market. If we look at the indicators, so if you look at the flight plan, in order for it to get to page 1, it's somewhere between 44 and $41 is where you need to be, and the number of ratings needs to be somewhere in the 350 plus in order for you to get to the top of page 1. But again, if you look at your flight plan, like, clearly if you're not on page 1 below a 4.5, not really quality going on until you get to page 1. So again, it might be easier for you to penetrate this market because of the low quality that's happening on the other pages. And then after that, it's can you sustain high quality ratings in order for you to continue to get conversion share and click share and get to the top of page 1. And then if I look at other potential ways to penetrate and gain market share, cat backpack carrier, like, obviously another high ranking word, pretty good conversion share and click share. So this might be another keyword that you want to devote some marketing budget to try and gain market share and get revenue for your product. Same thing with cat backpack. Again, really high ranking, good click share conversion share for you if you can get to that point. Cat carrier backpacks, I mean, similar, combining the two. Good click share conversion share. Or cat backpack or backpack for cats. Again, just kind of a variation of this. Click share is really high, but conversion share is also really high. So again, might be something worth bidding on, and getting to. This might be better than one of these. These ones might be more competitive. This might be cheaper, but if you get to the top of the page one, you might have a much higher chance of getting conversion share. So again, these are all the things that we're looking at from a data perspective in order for you or for us to quantify and say, yeah, this is an opportunity worth pursuing, and we want to keep figuring out if we want to do a white label product or do we want to do a private label product and develop something on your own. So that's all I have for today. As far as everything, we talked about all the qualitative and quantitative metrics that go into it. We looked at Etsy trends to see if we can start using existing products out there in small batch quantities that maybe we can go penetrate a market on Amazon, as well as what a case study looks like from the data perspective. I appreciate all of you coming by. I do see that there are some questions, so I'm going to go ahead and answer those. If there are more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. The first one is, how do we get a replay or recording of this seminar? I think we can do that. We can send this out at the end. How do you compile your rankings and reviews chart? So how do we compile our rankings and reviews charts? So this is all data that's being collected from places like Amazon, and we have an algorithm that we do to a proprietary algorithm that we have that kind of puts everything into perspective based on the different keywords and search terms. So everything that you've seen today is something that we have put a lot of time and effort into getting. And the last question is about someone put in a form today. No one reached out. I will make sure that someone reaches out to you as soon as we get off this call. Those are all the questions I have. If there are any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I think I see one more. How much can we expect to spend to get a product research and design ballpark? That's a great question. If you're asking specifically about, Gembah's pricing, product research, depending on how often you want it, can range on a monthly fee basis, or can also range, just from a one-time offering. Can range from $1,000 to $3,000, depending on how much you want it to do. And then design, that's going to really depend on how much how intricate the product is to get designed. It can be as low as a few $1,000s. It can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what the product is and how much you want to differentiate from what's already out there. So the goal is that if you work with a partner like Gembah, that you can have all that kind of taken care of in under one roof, and have people that are matched up with your products, that have experience making those products before. Okay, so I believe that is all the questions I have. Again, if you need to get in touch with us, please feel free to reach out to us at www.gembah.com. That's GEMBAH.com. We have a form that you can fill out, and someone will be in touch with you. You can also email info@gembah.com. That's INFO at gembah.com, and someone from our team will be in touch with you. Again, I really appreciate everyone's time going through this. This is something that we get really excited about. It's predictive analytics to help you understand if a product is worth pursuing or not. Hopefully you learned something today, and if there are any questions following up, please feel free to reach out at one of those mediums, and we can get back in touch with you, either about the data or about creating new product. Thank you.